Hey guys, welcome to Tall Tales with Taco Bell, wherever you may be in the world today, with everything going on out there, especially recently what happened with our B-2 bombers striking over in Iran. I wanted to go through my Rolodex and call some of my buddies up who fly the B-2, and I actually have that many people I know as pilots for the B-2. But I've got one better. My dear friend Jeff Bolton has just finished a television program that is phenomenal, and it's coming out real soon, and we're going to talk to him about that. But he also flew a 24-hour practice sortie in the B-2, followed by a live 4-hour sortie in the right seat of the B-2. And I can think of nobody better to talk to about what those guys were probably going through, and a little bit about what his experience was. So without further ado, because we have limited time, I've got Jeff Bolton on. How you doing, brother?
Great, Taco. Probably like you, just amazed and gratified by the power and precision of the mighty stealth bomber, and more importantly, the young men and women in the on the flight deck flying. And what an amazing, amazing event over the weekend.
Oh my God. And I bet you were sitting here like this, on your phone, texting some of your buddies going, dude, was that you? Was that you?
It's funny you say that because my phone started buzzing last week, and because you know this with your career in the Marine Corps. There's always a sort of a workup cycle. Even in
Right.
private, you can see enough stuff generally that you kind of know when something's going down. And so my
Yeah.
phone started lighting up last week, and there were a lot of we know now there were a lot of deceptive tactics used, which is great to take the adversary off their game. But it
Yeah.
started buzzing last week, and by the time the announcement came, it was at a full roar from folks that are in the program, which was really fun and really gratifying. Nothing classified, of course, that be wildly inappropriate, but
Right.
some good natured exchanges in there because everybody loves the B2, and when it does what it does, there's
Yeah.
nothing like it on the planet.
Well, when they decide to get out, their careers event, it's time to go. Let me know, hook me up personally with them, and we'll work out some stuff. But could you imagine? Tell me about a time that you blah blah blah. Oh man, there was this time I bombed Iran during this airline interview. I mean, that's gonna be epic.
Right. And you know that they are so it is such a closed and insular world that to get them to talk about those things at times is difficult because I will tell you that in my experience, and I've flown and filmed. Yeah, I think I was the first person in history to fly and film aboard all three heavy bombers,
Yeah,
um, and maybe the only. But the B2 community is very cerebral. There are a bunch of very, very thoughtful, cerebral people because flying the platform requires a lot of precision. It's not a hard airplane to fly. We can talk
right.
about that, but you operate it and you have to operate it with such precision to take advantage of its characteristics, its stealth characteristics, not its flight characteristics, but its stealth characteristics, that they just tend to be a cerebral group of cats and dogs, guys and gals both. And so their community is very tight-lipped, very closed, very insular, but super fun people. The exact people you can imagine having over for a barbecue
Yeah.
and a cocktail. They'd be right there with you, but they are very, very serious minded.
Okay, so these guys get the call, launch. What can you walk through having done the 24-hour simulator? I mean, I can imagine being in the sim for 24 hours, but could you walk
Yeah.
through what probably they were going through and what life would be like on the airplane?
Yeah, I'll back into it. We'll go backwards and then we'll march forward up to the drop. So part of what they do in that community is the B2 requires an extraordinary amount of mission planning across multiple mission sets. And
Mhm,
so again, I'm not going to say anything that I'm going to pound the table. I'll slap the table on something if I can tell you I experienced it. Otherwise, it's speculation on my part, but we'll
yeah,
call it educated speculation.
yeah,
That they probably long had and constantly updated attack plans specifically for the B2 on those nuclear enrichment sites. So this was not the first picture that the B2 teams were getting. They
mhm,
had seen those battle plans before. They get updated with great regularity. Hotspots in the world are like that. You know that from your
mhm,
career.
mhm,
So they already had a good idea of the route they were going to fly based on weather. They knew what they were going to employ in terms of weapons systems. So part of the community in the B2 is you have the schoolhouse, and then the only combat coded B2 squadron in the world is there at Whiteman. So they're almost
mhm,
co-located. So it's pretty common for people to go, obviously, to go through the schoolhouse and then come over into the B2 community. And by the time you've done that, you've already gone through tons of that mission planning and mission training.
mhm,
Before you can be certified as a B2 pilot, one of the things that you have to do is fly 24 hours in the simulator. And on that mission,
wow,
you basically it's a normal mission. So you treat it that way. So your sleep cycle, starting in the several days previous,
mhm,
you start adjusting your sleep cycle to when you know you're going to have to go get in the jet and fly.
mhm,
In my case, I was up, I think that morning at 6. We were in the squadron by 8 a.m. We were briefing, the safety briefings, ejection seat, all that stuff for me was done in the days previous, but for the pilot that was with me that day, Whip, was his call sign. Whip, Whip had a basically normal day, except trying to manage his sleep cycle a little bit early.
mhm.
And then the day we showed up, we didn't end up taking off in the sim until around 1600. And
Holy crap,
yeah, we landed 24 hours later. So, uh,
long day.
yeah. So of note, in order to be, trusted to be in the actual airplane for 24 hours, you've got to demonstrate that you can do it in the sim because you can't get out. So in the sim that night, I did not get out. I got up from my seat a time or two, used the head with a piddle pack, but otherwise you're in it and resting maybe if you want to.
Okay, all right, you know what, just for a second, um, I heard on the news this morning on talk radio, and they were talking about 36-hour mission. Yeah, the pilot can get up. There's a bathroom in the back, a microwave, and they can lay down. What are the accommodations space wise on the flight deck?
So I'll give it to you this way. If you're sitting in the seat, the only two seats on the aircraft. So I've seen a whole bunch of misreporting and photos posted that are inaccurate. There's all sort of inaccuracies out there about it. If you do the research, you can figure it out. But fundamentally, there are only two seats on the jet.
Right.
In the early days, there was a third one when they thought they were going to have a navigator, and then GPS came online, and so they nulled out that third seat. So when you're sitting in the cockpit, it's virtually identical to the 7.3 in the sense that you can reach out with your arm
Hmm.
and you can touch the other pilot on the shoulder. So you're side by
Okay.
side, two seats only. And then you've got matching controls, matching throttle quadrants. In the right seat it's to the left, and the left seat it's to the left. And then it has a stick. The other thing about the B2, it has a stick, not a yoke. Right?
Okay.
Fighter guys had a word in that. So it doesn't have a big yoke like the B-52, you're horsing the yoke around. It has a stick like a fighter. So that's the space right there. And then you've got fundamentally a sort of a late 90s glass cockpit. It's been
Hmm.
upgraded and constantly upgraded. Uh, and then immediately behind the seats, and you are, of course, in an ejection seat. So when you're strapped in, If you got to ride the rails, you're going to make global news. Thankfully, that's only happened once. I met one of the guys that was there, mission commander,
Yeah.
who survived that. Great dude, but
That was the one out in Guam, right?
in Guam, right, had a sensor issue and couldn't they? It was not their fault, right? They couldn't do anything about that.
Is it is it
But
is it true when the guy pulled the ejection handle that the wing commander came up on the TV screen said, try harder,
sounds
try harder," and the guy's like,
sounds like
"Go!"
no, sounds like an Air Force legend, right? Um,
Yeah.
but it so right behind the pilots, then there's a space on the floor. The
Mhm.
space is about 6-ish feet or so. I'm almost 6'4", and I
Right.
had to curl a little bit. So it's about 6 feet wide, which matches up if you think about it in the cockpit to the left-hand seat, center console, right-hand seat. If you laid a tape measure down from one end to the other of both of those seats,
Yeah.
6-ish feet or so is about what it is. And then it's about 3 feet wide. So if you want to sleep, in my experience, and look, they may have made some upgrades to the airplane since then. I doubt it. But if you go to Walmart, you buy one of those camp mattresses that you stomp on with your foot.
Yeah.
That's it. You're in a $2
Wow.
billion aircraft and a $28 mattress, camp mattress that you stomp with your foot to air it up. So you're out of your seat at this point. You're laying on this thing, and I did it just because I wanted to have the experience. The jet's brutally loud, so if you don't have noise canceling headsets and your helmet on, one or the other, I mean, it's insanely loud because you're sitting on the motors, right? You're sitting on four motors right
Ah,
underneath you,
think
right?
about that. Yeah,
The
yeah.
motors are internalized on the jet, and so it's insanely loud. So that's the space that you have to sleep. They have a bathroom. Well, in the case for dudes, it's a piddle pack, which Taco from your career. For those of your listeners that don't know, a piddle pack basically think of um, a big Ziploc bag with a material in it that when it senses moisture or liquid, then it becomes a gel. So that's what you use to urinate. If you're a dude, ladies have a different. Today, I understand they have a different technology where they can exercise. Thankfully for them, a more elegant solution to having to go number one. But number two, if you have to go number two, and everybody tries to avoid that, you in fact eat a low residue diet leading up to the flight. Low residue meaning it doesn't make you have to go number two. And then during the flight, manage yourself with snacks and foods that aren't going to be potentially disagreeable to your stomach, because the last thing you want to do on the flight deck in that space right behind the two seats, if you don't have the camp toilet down, is use the camp toilet. Or if you
Right.
don't have the camp mat down, you don't want to use the camp toilet.
It's not
It's
can
camp
it's not
toilet.
a chemical toilet, right? It's like a honey bucket?
It's a honey bucket.
Okay.
Yeah, just like again, you would take out into when you go camping. It's
Right.
got the chemicals in it, but you the seats on top of the bucket, and that's it. So it's pretty comic. Oh, they're comfortable, they're fine. They got a bathroom, they got a bed, and all that. No, it's a $2 billion bomber with a very very austere set of options for sleeping and taking care of your personal business. Last one I was in, the had a, micro. I think it had a microwave in it. The first one I was in, it was a test bird. It did not. So, um,
So they can actually nuke some stuff.
they should be able to. No pun intended. But I will also tell you that they're really really good because they once you've done it a number of times, you're taking your snack bag on board. So there's a lot of thought that goes into what are the liquids you're taking on board to sustain you, and
Yeah.
what snacks are you taking on board, because you're going to eat them at a very precise time, right? Because obviously, let's go back to that timeline, Taco, if you'd like to. You have tried to manage your sleep cycle in the days previous, get as much sleep as you can, be very well rested when you turn up. But you turn up at 8 in the morning, you're brief, 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 and let's say they're going to take off at 1600.
Yeah.
Well, a crew has already gone out ahead of them at least a couple hours early and has already woken up the jet. They don't get in the jet, start the jet. They get into a jet that is turning and ready to taxi.
Holy crap.
because
Okay.
their crew days are going to be so long, and it takes a very, very long time to wake up a B-2, right? They've been around since the 80s. They're amazing technology, but they've got a lot of computers on board. So a crew, a full up B-2 crew, just like the crew that's going to get on there, is going to go on ahead. They're going to crank the airplane. They're going to get all the systems online. They're going to run all the bit tests, and they're going to do everything to get that airplane perfectly configured to taxi and take off. They're going to set the parking brake, and then one of the pilots comes up first because there's so little room, and they talk through any issues, and then one pilot gets out, goes down. Pilot that came up gets in. Then the second one comes up. It's going to go do the mission, talks again, gets a quick brief. Then the person who woke up the airplane on the other side goes down the ladder. They make sure everything's good. They button it up, and then shortly thereafter they taxi. Because remember, their day in the air is going to be anywhere from 5 hours to 30 plus, which it sounds like they did in this case, maybe late 30s.
36 hours is what they're
Was
reporting.
it
Yeah.
36? Yeah, that
Yeah.
you just if you're just doing some simple math, I figured it was somewhere in the mid to high 30s. But so by the time you take off in the afternoon, say it's 1600, and then you're going to fly for 36 more hours. So you're going to go to 1600 the next day,
Yeah.
right? And your body is not changing time zones in the same sense, right? Because you're encapsulated. So you're still on your clock time on your
Mhm.
on your watch, not your Apple Watch, because those aren't on board. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'm sure.
but on your analog watch, you're still on Whiteman time, but you're seeing sunrises and sunsets, depending on where you're going in the world.
So that's
Uh,
messing up
yeah, so your whole
your
circadian
rhythm.
rhythm is thrown off, and frankly, sleeping on the jet is not very comfortable. It's hella noisy. It's cold. You're at high altitude. It's not Club Med up there, so you've really got to manage what you're going to eat, when you're going to sleep, what you're going to drink, very, very, very tightly, and you can only do that by flying those missions in advance, including that 24-hour sim we talked about.
So what guys bring, like a bag of carnivore snacks, a whole bunch of those bags of carnivore snack
Yeah, so again, you
to
want
get
low
the
residue
protein?
stuff. You don't want any, yeah, you want protein, but you don't want to upset your stomach. So energy bars are super common. Waters, Gatorades, things to keep your electrolytes up. Because the other thing is, and you know this from your airline career and your military career in the Herc, you get dehydrated flying at
Yeah.
altitude. It doesn't just happen to Jimbo in business class, pounded too much booze. It happens to the FAs and to the flight deck too. You get dehydrated. So imagine being on that jet for 36 hours, flying at 30 plus thousand feet. You've got to stay hydrated.
What
You've
is
got to stay hydrated.
do you remember what the cabin altitude is at altitude? Because I mean,
Hmm.
flying around a 737, you're about 8,000 feet
I have to think
on a
about that. I think it was above that, but I can't answer you definitively. I think it was above that, but it wasn't by a whole lot. And obviously they have the unclassified capability to fly much, much higher than that.
right.
They can get way, way, way up there. And which is the likelihood of what they did. They see more up there, right?
Yeah.
A little easier to maneuver if you got any issues. Altitude's your friend, right? Always, even in the B-2.
So
But
so on a long mission like that, engage the autopilot. Now you're just
okay,
autopilot guidance,
another
except for the
no,
manual
no,
refuelings, right?
another myth, another myth. There is no autopilot on B-2.
Wait,
There is no autopilot on B-2.
how could they not have an autopilot on that thing?
So I'll tell you what was said to me. And again, I'm a civilian. I don't know the program. I mean, I know it enough to be dangerous. But think of it this way. You always want one pilot flying, right? You only have two. You only have two pilots on board,
Right.
pilot and mission commander, both qualified to fly the airplane. So if you're going to take off and you're going to do 24, 36, 44-hour mission, somebody's going to be sleeping at some point in all likelihood, and somebody's going to be flying. So the
Yeah, but
idea is that because you make one pilot always have control of the direction of the aircraft, it encourages alertness and awakeness. Because if you just set the autopilot, think of the likelihood of both people falling asleep. That happens in commercial aviation fairly
Yeah,
routinely.
yeah, I know, but it also the workload is dramatically increased,
Yes,
um, hand
yes,
flying something. And how
it
are you
is.
hand flying it at altitude without, just a minute change on a stick, fly by wire, making the airplane do this
So
at altitude?
yes, it increases workload, but to answer that question, it does have auto throttles. It does not have autopilot, but it does have auto throttles.
Yeah, but even
So
my Cherokee 140 had wing leveler. I mean, there's got to be something to have the guy just to B-17's had it. Come on,
it's part of
just
the
to
it's part of
relax.
it's part of the secret sauce. Because remember, we're back to their mission planning.
Yeah.
They fly a path called oof, I don't know if that's classified or not. I don't think it is. Well,
Oh,
let's just say this.
don't say it if it's close.
No, yeah, well, I should know it if it is A, because I don't have a clearance. I don't want a clearance. I would never want that, and I'd never want the bad guys to do anything. Let's just say this: they fly a path
Okay.
to target that is extraordinarily precise given current intelligence, whatever that may be at a given moment, and it
Mhm.
takes into account civilian populations, air defense threats, commercial traffic,
Mm.
potential military traffic, time of year, time of day, all kinds of factors go into this very, very, very specific flight pattern. They are used to flying incredibly precisely over vast distances all over the world, where a turn to 40 degrees for 6 minutes, followed by a turn back to 60 degrees the other way, and that kind of flying is
Mhm.
their stock and trade. They are very, very good at it. So
Wow.
somebody is always on piloting the aircraft. Auto throttles, once you get them set, you got to mess with them because it's four motors. You know this.
Mhm.
Each one of them has a personality. Um, and you got to mess with them, and they're never in the identical position on the throttle quadrant. They're all off a little bit because they just have different personalities. um, but the idea is that you always have a pilot, no matter how long the mission, hand flying the airplane, which keeps that pilot awake and make sure that, again, let's say, all right, let me make up a scenario. Taco, what if you put it on autopilot and there was a technology out there that, without you knowing it as an air crew, your autopilot could be manipulated somehow without your knowledge. It's the stuff of novels,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, no, I don't see that happening with it's 90s technology.
Again, it's a highly upgraded aircraft. So back to the moral of the story is you want somebody flying that airplane, and yeah, so you end up with a lot of stick time, which is amazing, which is awesome.
So what do they do? Alternate hour on,
Uh-huh.
hour off, hour on, hour off, and then
Everybody works it out differently. When the mission commander, for example, I was in the mission commander seat when we were getting ready to kill Yukon Cornelius in Alaska, which was my target. My tasking was to kill Yukon Cornelius. I put a whip, and I put a warhead on his forehead, along with 79 other 500 pounders that were in multiple locations. I had to monkey punch in lat long on 8,500 pounders, so I was busy for a long time over on the Link 16 punching in lat longs for the bombs because we were assuming a GPS denied environment when we were dropping.
okay,
So that person in the left seat started flying the airplane for several hours anyway, and then it might be, hey, I need to make a head call, or in their case, I don't know what the Air Force calls it, latrine, whatever it is. I'm used to being around crayon eaters like you, so it's a head. Um, and highest compliment you can get, right? Crayon eater
yeah, that's it. That's
as
it.
a Marine. But so you just switch it off. Yeah. And then somebody may sleep. And again, you try to work this out in advance. You don't try. The brief that you do, you know who you're going to fly with. And
Mhm.
every single detail is discussed down to the letter. Of course, and it's going to be, hey, if everything proceeds as planned, we're going to take off. We're going to tank. We're going to fly to X. We're going to tank again. At that point, probably makes sense for you to hit the rack, and then when you're up, I'll hit the rack, and then we'll be well ahead of the target area, And then they've got some we'll just call them tactics, techniques, and procedures, some TTP about what they do before they go feet wet to the target.
Okay.
Which again, unclassified, open sources. You want to verify all your target information. You're getting updated targeted information if there is any. You're making sure your systems are online before you turn and go into full stealth mode uh,
Right.
to to get to the bad guys.
Wow. I mean, that just blows me away. That's a lot of hand flying for 36 hours.
That may have changed, Taco, but I have not heard that. And when I flew the jet in 2018, I think it was 2018. Then I went back and I flew the 24-hour sim in 2019. It was that
Yeah.
way at that point. I'm not saying it hasn't changed because those airplanes are getting upgraded all the time, but I'd be surprised if it did. It's really kind of part of the culture, and a point of pride. But if I
Yeah.
hear one of my
Right.
buddies in the community watches this, he or she may call and correct me if that's been fixed or been updated.
Well, still, if you guys and you're hearing me and you're hand flying for 36 hours,
Yeah.
you're a stud. So that is amazing. How was it when you were flying it? How was the just even slight movement? I mean, did you have to, would it trim up pretty well then?
Yeah, and again, in my experience, I don't have enough hours in it to speak to it from a piloting perspective, especially as a guy who, as you well know, has kept his student pilot designation for his whole career on
Yeah.
purpose, so I can keep
Yeah.
flying stuff. But it flies beautifully. The aircraft flies beautifully. It has a 2G max, at least when I was flying it. But maybe again, some of this stuff could have changed. When I was flying, it was a 2G max, and your logic doesn't take you very far to realize that that's probably because you don't want to stress the airframe
Hmm.
and stress the parts and pieces of the airframe that contribute to its stealth in the shapes and the coatings and all those kinds of things. So you don't ever see the airplane. You'll see it occasionally, banked out on a turn, but if they're not aggressive, it's not a hard pull. You
Yeah.
don't want that. Not fighter jet, hard pull. But it flies beautifully. Because it's a flying wing, and of course it has the spoilers out instead of traditional flaps, traditional rudder. It's got spoilers, and so it flies differently, but it flies. In my case, the I had great weather. Um,
Uh-huh.
Flies like a dream. Super, super smooth, super easy to fly.
James had a quick question here. When dropping the bombs, does B-2 fly a different pattern to conventional bombers?
Yes, I would say that that's back, but they both do the same thing. Even your non-conventional or the B-1 or B-52 also fly a very precise line to target, but the B-2's precise line is configured specifically to take advantage of its stealth configuration.
Mhm.
But in some instances, personally know of some instances that are public knowledge where you go in one way, come out another, but then resume a similar course to get back home. Of course, B2s though at different times and B-52s and B-1s will fly a combat mission taking off from the continental United States from CONUS, go to target, strike target, and then go land somewhere else. They will not go back home, like to go to Guam, for example, or Diego.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I'm surprised they didn't go to, Diego Garcia.
I have a theory about that, and it is that if they are going to continue the bombing actions against Iran or
Mhm.
any of its proxies, uh, that and again, this is just me common sense
Yeah.
thinking. I suspect the weapon stores in CONUS are more significant than they are at our remote bases. Don't know that, but
Oh,
that's just a guess.
oh, so talking about the bomb, I mean, that's the Moab of all bombs, right? Whatever that particular
Uh-huh.
bomb is, the
This is the
penetrator.
MOP, MOP. Yeah, yeah.
That's what every guy was saying when they were about to go to bed. Like,
Yeah,
wow.
they're right.
Uh,
It's the mop.
the
Yeah,
mop.
a massive,
Uh,
massive ordnance penetrator, man. It's a beast. 30,000 pounds, Taco. 15
30,000 pounds.
tons, dude. 15 tons, and it gets to almost supersonic speed. by the time it gets down to sand or reinforced concrete or whatever it's going to hit.
Yeah, 30,000 pounds. Just amazing. So you think about how much ordnance a B-17 squadron carried in World War II, and just one B-2 probably is how many squadrons? 5, 6 squadrons?
There's only one combat coded B-2 squadron on the planet, and it's at Whiteman. And they have between the training unit, the schoolhouse unit that is, and the active duty unit, which is the
Mhm.
393rd is the active duty unit. Um, that's 20 aircraft in total. You know, at any given moment, you've got a couple of them in heavy maintenance. You've got a couple of them in intermediate. You got, probably a couple of them. And again, these are numbers, I'm just making them up, but common sense, if you operate an airplane fleet at any given moment, some of them are in heavy maintenance, some of them are intermediate maintenance, some of them are in lighter maintenance, and some of them are flying. You can see how many we put in the air because it's publicly reported. But those same airplanes, once they flew back and landed,
Yeah,
they'd report any maintenance issues. It would be no different than a commercial flight of you on the 7-3. They're going to actually, you're upgrading now, I think, but they're
yeah.
they're just going to turn them. They're going to service them, turn them, and if the bad guys are still misbehaving, they're going to get right back in them and keep flying.
Jeez, that's
Rearm them,
amazing.
rearm them, and gas them, fix any fixable maintenance issues on the spot, and keep going. By the way, Taco, I'll show you this. I think it's sunny enough. I'm in my office. I did this on purpose. I'm on my phone.
Uh-huh.
You see that flag flew over a camp in Afghanistan, which is a friend of mine gifted that to me. But I'll show you this just because it might make you
Yeah.
smile. This is a patch set that was given to me. So my B-2 flight patch set is a different patch set because I was flying in the schoolhouse.
Uh-huh.
But this one is from the active duty squadron that was a gift to me. So how do I flip this? Let me see if I can flip this, Taco, so that you can see it. Actually, I can't flip it. But you tell me
That's
when
right.
you can see
Yeah.
some stuff. So I'll come over here and we'll get this way. No, this way.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Look at that bat wing. That's cool.
so there's and then I'm trying to do this.
Yep, Spirit Driver. See it?
Yeah. And then I'm
Kita.
Spirit. I'm 691.
Are you the 691 guy? I mean,
Yep. I'm
691st dude?
yep, 691st due to fly the airplane. Squadron lanyard. Um,
That's cool.
the B-2, great. Am I doing it right? Taco, can you
Yep.
see it now?
Yeah, I see it. It's beautiful.
And then on the back, of course, they're
Oh,
not messing around.
you got to hook me up, man. Talk to a buddy. I can buy a coin. I would be
It's a
honored.
death's head.
Right.
And then, of course, Global Strike.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then in this case, this patch is a 393rd Expeditionary Bomb
Go
Squadron, or
go down a little
393rd,
bit. Go down a little bit.
393rd EBS,
Yeah.
Expeditionary Bomb Squadron. And you see the eyes, that's the Tiger and the Stealth of the B-2 there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's my bag that hangs in the office, flight gloves here. And um, I've got some other stuff, from Marine Corps. That's from flying the B-1. Um, it's got the very same kind of stuff on it.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
yeah, that's the stealth bomber. Of course, they were in combat. They wouldn't have been flying with patches or anything. They would have sanitized all that stuff off. But
Right.
yeah,
Well, I mean, I think back when I was listening to the news, we used to stretch a hammock on a C-130 on the back ramp and then put a sleeping bag in it
yeah,
because it was so cold, the air coming off the ramp and the hot, warm air over the top. But you would sleep like a baby in that. And then we had a little convection oven to heat things up, and we had a coffee, the coffee urns, fresh water and coffee. But guys would bring coolers with stuff. So do the
sure,
guys there bring a
yes,
little igloo cooler
uh-huh,
and load it up?
yep,
And
absolutely. Yeah, bring a very healthy snack bag, um, and a cooler. Yeah, with all your waters, your Gatorades. Um, Yeah, it's like I said, it's very well organized and very well thought out. None of
that's
which
cool.
changes. 24 to 36 hours in the jet is by the time you get out, I mean, you're just strung out, right? Because
Yeah.
Hopefully you've slept well in the days previous, but let's say you go in and you have an 8 hour day and then
Yeah.
you get in the jet and then you got to fly all that time, even with, flight equipment helping you get dressed, your final briefings, any targeting updates they've got on the ground, another crew's going out to wake up the jet. And you know what? A week later, you might land from that 36-hour mission, and a week later, 3, 4 days later, even you might be waking up the jet for another crew getting ready to
Got
go
it.
drop. So you'll go out for a couple hours and you'll treat that airplane exactly like your own, and you want to make it perfect for the
Yeah. Next
you want
guy.
to make it perfect for the next guy. So another great point of pride in their community is they are very, very supportive of each other. It's like, let's make everybody amazing, right? It's not, you just don't see a bunch of silliness. You see a very sober, serious group of people.
Do they have to take go pills or anything like that to help
So,
keep the
so they can,
awake? Do they
yeah.
have mild caffeine pills that they can take?
The Air Force has publicly acknowledged that for some of their missions, and I don't know what all of the specific airframes are, but including the heavy bombers because of the long range nature of them, probably along with C-17, maybe even the Hercules. They do have a program where they can fly on amphetamines.
Mhm,
It's not publicized often,
mhm,
and I don't have the sense, and in fact, I've heard very little about it over time. I do know that in order to use them, you have to train with them, and
okay.
you have to have experience what it's like to be on them so that you can manage that. Because if you think about this, Taco, back to kind of where we started, let's say that they got to work. Hopefully, they slept well for a couple of days. They got to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. Think of the other crews there supporting them. You had to have other crews waking up those jets,
Mhm.
giving you intel and doing all those kinds of things. By the time, just doing some easy math, by the time they were feet wet, ready to hit the target, they were 8 plus 17, call it 25 hours by the time that they were over the target. Now, it could have been 26,
Yeah.
could have been 27, but they're over target. So what you want to do for the humans in the cockpit to make sure those drops are perfect, they want to manage their energy so that they're at peak alertness at at at, at time on target, right? You want everything set up in the hour previous to that, and then when you're dropping at hour, say 27, so you got to manage the energy cycle in your body and your rhythms and all the things we talked about earlier. So they do have the option of using some augmentation to do that.
Well,
But
the seats
and like
are
in mine, my sim, I didn't do it, and the pilot that was with me in my 24-hour sim, he didn't do it either. We just went straight through on the 24 without augmentation.
what about the seats? Do they recline at all, or are they
No,
rejection seats so they don't?
no, standard ejection seat, hard
Oh
as a
my
rock.
god.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, they
crazy,
should have
right?
thought yeah, yeah, some engineer, pilot should have gone and beat the engineer a little bit about, "Hey, man, you gotta think about us, right? I mean, 30 hours in the jet, come on."
Yeah, they are not designed for they're not designed for comfort in any way.
Do the guys take, some baby wipes, a fresh shirt, kinda freshen up a little bit?
You know what? It's funny you say that because everybody's different, right? And so do
Uh,
you part of the way through go, okay, I'm gonna stop, um, take some baby wipes, get rid of my pet vapor, put on another t-shirt. I can't testify to it personally, but I'm told it does. Yeah, just so you can have some semblance of feeling like a human and not an animal just strapped in the seat.
yeah, oh god, yeah. I mean, we fly to China, that's 15 hours, but you have 4 pilots,
Yeah,
and the first 2 guys go back, then 3 hours later, the other 2 guys go back, and you're just alternating. You go up to, the captain's condo, take a nap over first class, and
yeah.
yeah, it's different. Also, our cabin altitude is, about 4,500 feet in the 787, maybe
Mm,
4 to 5,000 feet, and we have humidifiers in there, so you feel really refreshed
yeah,
once you get back. So I can't imagine. I mean, C-130 was loud, but having those jet engines, that must
yeah.
be how does the simulator, recreate that noise? I mean, do they have big giant
It
speakers under there for you?
No, you get them. You do get the recreation of that. And there's a couple of things that are at work there, Taco, that are significant. And that is, of course, you have to tank, right? You're tanking multiple times, at least twice on the way over, maybe two or three times on the way back, flying the way that those guys did, or that guys and gals, the way they did that. So again, being super alert when you're tanking the jet after, 28 hours, you got to manage all of that. In the simulator, the fidelity in the B-2 simulator is the finest of any simulator I've ever seen. And that's for a specific reason. There are so few of the jets day to day
Yeah.
that are in the, because the fleet's so small, you,
Right.
you have a limited number of hours to fly them, and you don't want to put an excess amount of hours on them unless you're taking them to go kill somebody.
Right.
So, yes, they are flown live by those pilots, but all the systems and processes that can be tackled in the simulator are immense. And so, because of that, you spend a huge amount of time in the B-2 simulator as pilots. And that's why the fidelity in that is so good. I mean, it's really, really, really good.
You know what? I've been in the B-2 simulator.
Okay, then yeah, it's
No,
it's
no, no,
amazing.
no, no. We broke
Oh,
down there at I broke down there in like 92.
oh,
We lost the gearbox on the engine and we landed. There were no B-2s there. They were still building the hangars and whatnot.
okay,
And so we're parked at base ops and we're stuck there for a week before the squadron could send a maintenance team out to change the engine out or whatever they had to do. And I mean, every day they would call up, "Hey, sir, could the fire department go spray your jet down?" "Oh, yeah, yeah, sure. I don't think Rob will care. Yeah, go ahead." But I'm walking around with the pilot, I think it was Rob Rodden, and we're walking through, and we just started opening up doors and walking into places. And next thing I know, we're in the simulator, and we're in flight suits. So it was funny. And all of a sudden, this guy comes up and goes, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And said, "Just checking this place out, man. This is pretty awesome." And then the guy realized, "You're not Air Force pilots." And he goes, "How did you get back here?" And I go, "We just came in through the doors. It was blah blah." Blah. And I mean, Red
yeah,
Star Cluster. We were ushered out nicely by this Air Force guy, and we got out, and he just kind of said, "Don't talk about this."
that's
And there
great.
was no pictures back then, right? In 92, no
Yeah,
cell phones, no cameras. And,
yeah,
we're like, "Okay, yeah, no problem," and we left. And he's probably like, "Holy crap," calling up, "Hey, Airman Spacatelli, where the hell are you? Why aren't you here guarding the damn door like you're supposed to?"
yeah,
Two jarheads just walked right in there and walked into we walked into the sim, and we're like, "Wow,
yeah.
this is really cool."
I'm telling you,
But
Taco, today
that was
it's
a long time.
amazing. In fact, even the fidelity when you're tanking, it's not the same as tanking, in the jet, but it's a very, very good approximation. And in my flight, I filmed the tanking sequence, and they use it as a training aid today for new pilots coming in.
Yeah, you missed it, David. He talked about it. The newer ones had a B-2 or a microwave oven, and then we did talk about a small camp lavatory stool honey bucket.
Yeah.
And James asked about were you ever subjected to any classified procedures when you're flying on that 24-hour sortie?
No. And that's a very specific thing. No, no, even now, I've flown a nuclear Alchem release mission, simulated mission on a B-52 live.
Hmm.
And because of that, and those instances, what we've done over time is just developed procedures so that I don't see classified things. And my crews are the same way for the watch, for the television series. And we don't want the bad guys to know anything. We have very, very, very strict procedures in how we do things on the aircraft. So, for example, when I was dropping, me and Whip were dropping 8,500 pounders
Uh-huh.
from the B-2 to kill Yukon Cornelius and all the other parts of his military organization that
Yeah.
had illegally taken over peppermint mines. Um, I was punching lat longs by hand into a computer. The
Okay.
B-2 has other systems aboard that I was
That
not
makes
allowed
sense.
to see or otherwise touch, and of course I didn't. So
And how
no,
do you film on the inside? how did you film on the inside of the bomber? It
So
just certain angles or
my 2018 flight was the proof of concept for that, where I filmed for about a half hour, made
Mhm.
some very conscious decisions about, hey, don't shoot there, because your common sense, when you look at certain things, you go, that's never going to get cleared. And I wanted to make it easy for the people that had to clear it, because it was not only the pilot that was with me, but it was also the security folks that are responsible for the program security of the B-2 then and now. And we work with them routinely today. We know them
Right.
well because we've been working with them for years. We deconflict things with them often in advance. We can mask things, we can tape things, we can cover things. If it's instruments or panels or MFDs, multi-function display panels,
Right.
then aircrew can set those up not to show stuff that doesn't need to be seen, but to show engine parameters. For example, in 2018,
Yeah.
the pilot just threw the motors up on there. The motors, there's nothing classified about performance of the motors. Have been around forever,
Huh.
and so you do enough things like that. But then we submit all of our footage to make sure that, hey, there's not going to be anything revealed to the bad guys. And to your person that just asked the question about anything classified, because I monkey punched the lat longs by hand and did make mistakes along the way and had to do them over.
Yeah.
Um, the way we flew the mission and the briefing that we did, again, were fictional. So
Got it.
we didn't get into classification issues.
Well, this was a great photo. I use this for the show. You know, those hangars, they have,
Yeah, that was the day. It was the day I flew the airplane.
yeah, all the hangars are just sitting right in the line out there at Whiteman Air Force Base.
Yeah, they
And
called Taco. They call them docks, DOCKS docks. And inside those docks, they can both fuel and arm the jet. They can fuel and arm the jet. They can crank the jet, taxi out, and take off
it's amazing.
in a really, really rapid amount of time.
That's that's the nose.
Yeah, I'm standing just uh, to the starboard side of the nose, right past the number zero over there on the 80330. Just past that is the ladder attached, and you just go up that ladder, and
Uh-huh.
then you turn left. You make an immediate 90-degree turn
Uh-huh.
left, and you walk in again, encompassing an area that on your flight decks, again, you don't have, you have only the two seats, of course, but you have a little bit of a space behind, and I'll just say there's a lot of electronics and other sort of stuff on board that are uh that you don't see or necessarily function with, but have to do with the running of the airplane, that are close by as well.
How big were the bomb bays in looking up there empty? How big are the bomb bays?
Shockingly big. Like, you look and it's like looks like a, the, remember in the old days, you don't see them as much anymore, the 28-foot trailers that they would link them together.
Yeah.
That's about what it looks like. I mean, they're long, they're big. And in fact, no surprise that the B-2 can carry the MOP, the
So
massive
so
ordnance penetrator.
so you could you put a school bus up in there?
That's what I'm getting at. If you think about the 30,000 pounds of the MOP,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the old Harrier engine. It's not quite as big as a Volkswagen Beetle,
Uh-huh.
but it looks like it is. And the bay is just awesome. It's just amazing. To both of them, it's insane.
Because we carried a thing that looked like a big atomic bomb, uh, for fuel, big
Yeah,
silver metal deal, and that would hold like years. Don't quote me. 25,000 pounds of fuel. I mean, it was pretty big in our cargo bay. So to imagine having that, they'd have two of those objects in there.
that's right. Yeah.
Wow, that's just amazing. Well, I've got to let you go here in just a few minutes, and James said goodbye here. Thanks for making. I'm jealous. Fast jet's usually more my thing, but you can't ignore history makers, and it is pretty awesome. And then my
Yeah.
buddy Neil, who's a good grunt, Marine grunt. You fly boys are great. Damn, Skippy.
Love some
Uh,
grunts, baby. Love me some devil dogs. You know
okay,
that.
real quick. You got 5 minutes. I know you love the Marines the best, but what is the on your show? When is it coming out, and what do people need to look for? What channel?
Yeah, so I'm producing a documentary television series, first one in history called The Watch, America's Nuclear Mission Revealed. And we put season one in the can where we filmed aboard the B-52 and B-2s
Mhm.
with cinema cameras. First time in history, documentary crews have ever done that. We went to sea on a ballistic missile submarine, the Tennessee,
Oh,
filmed
wow.
at sea with them. And we also went up to the upper plains and embedded in at Minot Air Force Base, into the missile uh, end of the business, the ICBMs. We did command and control at Offutt. We flew the E4B, which is, you know, called the Night Watch, but colloquially known as the Doomsday Jet.
Yeah,
And we
doomsday
have
jet. Yeah.
we have an extraordinary number of young men and women on camera talking about being on the watch. And so we're rolling it out to networks of streamers right now. Not sure where it's going to go yet. It's obviously in a high demand
Yeah.
around the world. But what we do with that taco is the way we've gotten by is we tell people, we tell stories, not secrets. You talk about the what and not the how.
Mhm.
And this is the first time since America's been on the nuclear watch in 1959 that the government has ever allowed this story to be told. So
That
it's
is
truly
amazing.
historic. It's the most exclusive documentary content on planet Earth, and it is mind-bendingly cool.
Well,
I'm
can
even
we
honored to get to touch it.
I'd like to get you back on when you're about to release it so that, we can get people rolling and prep for it because, you, my
Absolutely.
friend, we've been friends for 15 years, 20 years?
It's been a hot minute. Yeah, 15 or
Yeah.
20 anyway.
Yeah, at
We've
least. I
both just
mean,
gotten
no,
better looking.
20 years. I think we met at Skyball after I got back from Iraq. That might have been '06. So it's a little shy of, yeah, yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah,
Um, what's funny is I remember listening to you on the radio giving live broadcasts from Iraq.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I just remember going, "You know what? If I ever meet this guy in person, I'm gonna buy him a beer," because there were not many people at the time that would
Yeah,
put their life on the line and go over to Iraq and hang out with Marines and,
yeah,
eat,
yeah.
you know,
It was
eat
amazing.
MREs.
I did the first live talk radio in Iraq and Afghanistan
I know,
for
man.
the whole war, and it was crazy. And you did buy me that beer, and we're still great friends today, which is even better. But yeah, happy to come back on when the watch comes out, and because
You
that's a
bet.
whole nother storyline that again. First time in history. I mean, we took cameras in places, tacos, that have never seen cameras before. And I mean, we had people walk up to us and go, I've been in the Air Force or the Navy or whatever it is for 28 years and have never seen a camera in this space ever, or a smartwatch or a phone, a smartphone
Right.
or anything like that. And we're in with cinema crews, cinematic, cameras and stuff. So
What
it's going to change the world.
amazing. One
Yeah.
last question. What would you rather be, in a bunker down in Omaha or up in a B-2?
Oh, no answer to that, man. B2,
B-2.
hair on fire.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, listen, man, I will, wrap this up. I'll let you get on to your next conference call. I owe you. Thank you so much, and give your wife a hug for me, and I will see you soon, all right?
Always, Taco. Love you. Talk to you soon.
Love you. Hoorah,
All right.
Semper Fi.
Out
Out
here.
here. Hey, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. That was, just a real quick, short talk with Jeff. Apologize, a little less than an hour. I hope to get him on again, and when his television show comes to fruition and it's out there, we'll advertise it for you so you can check this out. It's called The Watch. I included a link to his website down below in the description. If you like this, do me a favor, hit share, like, subscribe. Check it out. Let me know what you think. And let's see. Somebody asked, what's the documentary called? It is called The Watch because, the nuclear watch. So it's called The Watch, and, check that out. Maybe it's on IMDb already. I'm not sure. David, I apologize. I didn't get to your question, but we were running out of time. I'll try to find that answer out to you and see if we can put it in the comments. Um, But just, got to tell you guys, thanks so much for joining me. If you got any other questions, feel free to email me at mitchell.taco.bell@gmail.com. And if you have questions for the program, I'm going to start doing ask and answer. So if you have something you want to ask, shoot them, and then I'll, tell a story and try to put some little stories out there. You guys take care until I see you next time. Tomorrow, Tuesday, um, I'm going to have on my neighbor. Ronnie is a Israeli fighter pilot from back in the glorious days of 7-Day Wars and things like that, when he was flying fast attack jets. And I'm going to have Ronnie come on and talk to us about the Israeli perspective of what they were going through and, life over there, especially as a fighter pilot in war. Um, he and I flew together at our airline, and we've had a lot of fun. He's a neighbor, lived literally right across around the block from me. So tomorrow night, come join us on Tall Tales with Taco, and Ronnie Snitzer should be on 7 p.m. And we'll have a live discussion about life as an IDF or Israeli Air Force pilot, fighter pilot. So you guys take care, and we will talk to you soon. Adios, hasta luego, auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, shesheni, au revoir. Domo arigato gozaimasu, tano shinde kudasai, ciao, arrivederci, tashikura, assalamu alaikum, mahala, dovidzenia, das vidanya. And, David, see you around the schoolhouse. You bet, brother. We'll see you guys next time. And what should I end with? I am going to end with this one. No, this one. I think this one. Does this blow up some stuff? Let's do this one. That was some old stuff we did back when we were doing the Top Gun. That always gets me fired up and motivated. I think I'll end with this one, really. Unless you guys got any questions. You got any questions you want to ask me right now? I got a couple minutes before I have to go pick up my folks. But if you got some questions right now, feel free to ask me. I'll give you a minute. Hot minute, man, because there's 4 of you on there. No more. Okay, you guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care and have a great day.